Hi, my name is Sam, and I am going to talk about my experience having to medically retire from a sport and change my lifestyle because of a career ending injury. If you're watching this, it's probably because you know me or because you're like me 2 years ago and you have gone through a traumatic injury and are just searching for someone or something to tell you what to do and how to cope with it and just how to get through the mental and physical barriers that are going to come now that you're injured. I want to give a little disclaimer that I'm obviously not like a physical therapist. I'm not a therapist in general. This isn't any type of medical grade advice. It's more just kind of like advice you'd get from one of your mom's Facebook friends or your big sister or something on how to cope with what you're going through. And if you're not injured and you're maybe just like one of my friends or some of my family, then hopefully this will give you a little update on how I'm doing and what happened to me in college and why I've had such a non-traditional college experience. And I'm not good at editing at all. I don't think I ever will be, and I've never really done anything on YouTube before or anything like this. So I'm gonna try and just do it stream of consciousness, not edit very much. So there might be a few awkward pauses where I'm looking at the stuff I wrote down or where I just lose my train of thought. So bear with me. So I want to start with my history in sports and just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Maryland where I started playing lacrosse when I was really young. I was in elementary school and I played some other sports. I tried to play soccer, was terrible at it. I think I went out for the basketball team. I went out for a basketball team in elementary school and high school, didn't make it either time. The only sport I ever really clicked with was lacrosse and running. I didn't start competitive running till I was in high school, but I'll get to that. Lacrosse was my main sport. To be honest, I don't think I'm a naturally very athletic person, but I'm very much into fitness, and when I get into something, I'll dedicate myself to it really hard. Also, I'm sorry for how bright it is. I'm just working with natural light because I don't have ring lights or anything like that, so hopefully it won't stay this bright the whole time. Anyway, what I was saying, I'm not a super naturally athletic person, to be honest, but I'm really into fitness, and anything I struggled with in lacrosse, I overcame or compensated for, or tried to, with having a really high level of fitness. By the time I was in high school, could pretty easily run like a 6-minute mile, steady pace, and I was really into weightlifting. If you know me, I'm like 6 foot and pretty scrawny, but believe it or not, I do lift weights and I'm pretty strong for my build. And that allowed me to do pretty well at whatever sport I went out for. Like I said, that was lacrosse most of my life, and then became competitive running in high school. I did 1 year of cross country before I graduated, and then I continued to competitively run for the years up until my injury. So, talking about that specifically, I was recruited to play Division I lacrosse my junior year of high school. I was on the later end of being recruited, and I agreed to go to the first Division I school that really offered me a scholarship. I don't regret that at all. I think I made a great decision to go there because I made lifelong friends and I got to play a year of Division I lacrosse, and I grew so much from that. I think I got exponentially better while I was there. However, after my freshman year there, the school itself just didn't really click for me. It didn't have the major that I wanted. Personally, for me, the classes were not very challenging, and I'm a very school academic driven person. And I decided to get farther away from my hometown and go to a new school in Florida. And with there, I would be playing Division II lacrosse. So, see what I mean? The light is changing, now it's getting dark. But I would be playing Division II lacrosse, and I'd be able to focus a little bit more on school while still playing. And being able to take those skills I had learned while playing Division One to this new school. And it went really well. I really liked my new school when I got there, and when I was at my Division One school, I would definitely say I was an underdog there, but that just made me get so much better because I had no other option. I had to get better in order to even compete with the girls I was practicing with. So when I got to my new school, I was doing much better, and I was getting told by my teammates and my coach that I was doing really well, and they saw me having a pretty important role on the team, and I was really excited about that. Other than the lacrosse that I was playing, which if you've played a college sport, you know that you're doing morning lift, morning conditioning, afternoon practice, weekend practices, like 3 a days, 2 a days, with games and tournaments in between. So you're very, very active, well over the 10,000 steps you need to get that Fitbit goal every day. You're exercising a lot. Outside of that, I was also running because I wanted to run a half marathon in December of my sophomore year. So I was running before my morning lift. So my morning lift started at like 5:30, I think. I would get up before that, run. If I had a little time, I would go to sleep again and then go to lift, or I would run to lift, things like that. And I was also doing extra strength training on my own because I just didn't feel completely challenged in that 30 to 45 minute lift we'd have every day. And so yeah, I would definitely say, looking back, I was over exercising, and that's a habit I've had my whole life. It really didn't come from anything other than the fact that it was what I loved to do. It wasn't to look a certain way or anything like that. I just really liked working out. So in that time, during my sophomore year, in that fall, I started to have incredible knee pain. I had, in my left knee specifically, both knees, but left knee was much worse. I had tendinitis since high school. And tendinitis, I feel like, is one of those things that, like, it's like shin splints. Like, if you're running or jumping or doing anything, like, you're probably going to get tendinitis. Mine was just pretty severe tendinitis, I guess. I had to wear knee braces for it while I ran. But it was something I was always able to deal with. This, I was not able to deal with. Slowly, I had to drop out of the half marathon that I was going to run. I stopped weightlifting on my own. That turned into me not being able to lift with the team anymore. And it all led up to, I would say, one day where I woke up to go to morning practice and I literally could not move my leg at all. I couldn't move it. I would focus. I was laying flat on my bed, and I would focus as hard as I could to try and bend my knee, and all I would get was a shooting pain up my back through my shoulder. And I definitely have a tendency to be dramatic, not just about injuries, but about things in my life in general. I'm kind of just a dramatic person, but I knew this was serious, and I got myself into my car eventually, got to practice, told my teammates and my coach what was going on, and they sent me to go see the trainer. The trainer told me that it was probably just because my hamstring was tight. He tested my ACL, my MCL, and my patellar tendon, and everything seemed fine. They weren't sure what was wrong, and they said, you just have a tight hamstring. Stretch and roll out, and, stretch in the shower, drink a lot of water, all that stuff you're supposed to already be doing, and I was already doing. But I was like, okay, I guess I'm just a little baby and I can't handle a little tight hamstring and a little bit of tendinitis. But over the next couple weeks, it didn't get any better, and it was not something I could work through. I had pushed through other injuries my whole life, and if it's a minor injury, usually it will just kind of take care of itself, or you will learn to deal with the pain. This was not like that. I could not push through it, and I could not deal with it. I stopped going to class. I was probably terrible to be around. I remember being in a horrible mood all the time. I was always on the verge of tears. Like, if one little thing happened in the day, I would cry and break down because it was just like there was already this chronic pain that I was dealing with. One little thing on top of it broke me. And so when I came home for Thanksgiving break, I saw my parents and I saw my boyfriend, who both I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, if you didn't know. I came back and saw them, and they saw my knee, and it was disgusting to look at. Like, it was protruding. My kneecap was protruding. I wish I had a picture of it, but I lost my old phone. But my kneecap was like that sharp of an edge sticking out, and I could stick my finger up under my kneecap. And they were like, that's not normal. We need to go get a second opinion. So while I was home in Charlotte, I went and saw the surgeon who did my sister's knee surgery. And I forgot to mention, back in Florida, I did go see doctors. I had been sent to our school's athletic programs, like doctor and surgeon that every athlete used, and he told me there was nothing wrong. I took my MRI results to this surgeon in Charlotte that had done my sister's surgery. He took one look at it and said, your patellar tendon is torn and it is beyond repair. We need to do surgery. And I didn't have an option. There was no other option. I was a little bit relieved, to be honest, because I think, when you're hurt, like say you get like a paper cut and it doesn't look like anything, but it still really hurts. It's kind of like, I wish it would bleed or something so that people would, so that there'd be a physical representation of the pain that I'm in. This knee injury had just been like haunting me because I thought that it was something minor that I just couldn't handle, but it turns out I was right. I thought it was something serious, and it was. The surgery I was going to need wasn't that major. It was an invasive knee surgery where they would be cutting out my patellar tendon and putting in stem cells to have it regrow. But the recovery was only supposed to be 3 to 4 months. So I scheduled the surgery at home in Charlotte in December, and I would be able to play again by around spring break, is what I was told. Mind you, it wasn't just the not playing lacrosse that was really getting me. I lived in Florida. I had moved there because I love the beach. I love being outside. I was so looking forward to like long runs on the beach and going swimming. I wanted to learn how to surf. My activities were always something active. I loved to hike, mountain bike, anything like that. And all of that was taken away too. I couldn't even walk on the beach because the sand made me so unstable. I would fall over. Your patellar tendon kind of controls your balance, and if you have a torn patellar tendon, stepping the wrong way, you'll just fold like a folding chair, like a beach chair. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You'll just like fall backwards, and that happened to me a lot. So I was worried about the surgery, but I just tried to look at the light at the end of the tunnel and was like, few months and this will be over and you'll be able to swim and play lacrosse and you'll run that half marathon. Everything's going to be fine. It was not. I love my surgeon, and I signed a release saying that I knew this was, stem cells are relatively new and things can go wrong, and for a small percentage of people, it can go very wrong, and I ended up being one of that small percentage of people, and my patellar tendon did not grow back. If anything, the ends, they cut out the middle, the two ends just began to deteriorate and rot inside me. That sounds really gross, but that's what happened. I would go back for checkups throughout that following spring, and it was never good news. I was kept being told I'd be able to get my brace off next time. Every time I went, it just looked worse. They were giving me cortisone shots to help with the pain. I was barely going to class. I still was just an emotional wreck because of the pain I was in. Truthfully, after that first surgery, my pain only got worse, exponentially worse than it had been before I'd even been operated on at all. And obviously spring break came and went. I couldn't even walk upstairs. I was not going to be playing collegiate level lacrosse. And my teammates were, I think, very confused. My coaching staff was confused, and I was confused. I'm not a doctor. I didn't know how long it was going to be till I got better. I just knew I wanted the pain to stop, and I wanted to go back to my old life. I didn't feel like I had anything to talk about because the only thing going on in my life was my injury. When I came back between the summer between my sophomore and junior year, I went and saw my doctor again, and he told me that I would be needing to have another far more extensive and intrusive surgery. It's basically like a partial knee replacement. They would just be giving me a new patellar tendon, and that's not uncommon for things like the ACL or the MCL to have something else put in. For patellar tendon, it's a very major surgery because your patellar tendon is so much bigger and just plays a much different role than your ACL or MCL do. You really can't function without one. You can't walk without one. You can't walk or jump or run with an injured one. So the recovery was going to be 12 to 18 months. So if you do the math, I'd only played my freshman year. I just missed my sophomore year. I was going to have the surgery, miss my junior year and half my senior year of my eligibility. I had already redshirted for my sophomore year. I'd used my redshirt my sophomore year, and truthfully, I didn't see myself taking a fifth year just because I have other aspirations. I want to get into the workforce. I was going to graduate on time, and I didn't really want to spend the money to go to college for a fifth year, to be completely honest. So I had to make a decision on what I was going to do. And on top of that, not just the timeline didn't make any sense. It was that my doctor told me if I were to re-injure my knee, like say I were to get this surgery, recover for 18 months, get back into it, and miraculously be in good enough shape to play again by my senior year, if I were to fall, which happens all the time, and re-tear this new knee, no doubt about it, I would need a knee replacement. And at the time, I had just turned 20. A 21, 22-year-old shouldn't be having a knee replacement, because a knee replacement isn't just a one-time surgery. If you get a knee replacement, you need a knee replacement like every 10 to 15 years. That thing isn't built to last forever. So that would be me committing to years of surgery. I plan on living to like 150, so that's a lot of knee replacements. And he just, in general, gave me the pros and cons of going back to play, and there were a lot more cons for returning to playing. So I was offered a medical retirement by my school, which really, to be honest, doesn't give you anything other than just, you can say you didn't quit, you say you medically retired. Or I could be a team manager. And part of me wanted to do that. I knew a lot of other people who had been injured like me and chose to stay on the team, and you still get all the gear and you travel and you're just the team manager instead of a player. But I chose to take the medical retirement, and it was, to this day, probably one of the hardest decisions I have ever had to make, because I don't like to quit things. You're taught from a young age when you play sports that you never quit. Quitters never win. You mind over body. Just never give up, never give up. The person who wins at life is the one who never gives up. And I felt like by giving up, I had lost everything. And by that, I mean like who I was as a person. I lost my identity by quitting. So this is the part of, that's my story. I don't want to talk more about kind of the way that I felt after that happened. Maybe if anyone enjoys this video and wants to know a little more detail about how I didn't handle things correctly and sort of the mental health struggles I had during my junior year of college, that's something I'm willing to talk about. That's just not extremely relevant to this video. So now I'm going to give a little bit of advice. These are not all things that I did. These are things looking back I wish I had been told to do or not to do in order to best cope with this injury and my loss of identity because of the injury. So, let's see, I wrote them down here. First, don't compare your injury to other people's. Around the time I got injured, there were other people I knew who had the most common injury was a lot of girls either tore their MCL or their ACL. So we all had, and it was really funny, we all had like left knee injuries, and we would like sit and watch practice with our left knees all braced up. And I watched people who had been injured after me surpass me very quickly in physical therapy. And when I was still in a brace, they were all running and cutting and getting back into things, and I was practicing standing up and sitting down in a chair, and I felt like such a loser. I was like, how are these girls doing it? Are they just pushing through the pain and I mentally can't push through the pain? Are they eating healthier than me? Are they just built better than I am? Like, how are they recovering? Everyone's body is different, and also everyone's injury is different. My injury had gone undiagnosed for about 3 months, which led to a lot of deterioration and bone breakdown from my lack of cartilage in my knee. And also the patellar tendon is a lot bigger than an ACL or an MCL, so it's going to take longer to heal. Also, they had just had a cadaver put into their knee. I had an experimental stem cell surgery. So while they were waiting for their cadaver to heal and, take to their ligaments that were already there, I was waiting for something to grow that wasn't growing the whole time. The stem cells didn't work for me. They just didn't grow. So I wish I could go back and not be looking at what they were doing and instead focusing a little more on what I could do to help my own recovery and not comparing it to other people's. So just keep in mind, you don't know. And just because someone else is doing something that looks good, that doesn't mean they're doing the right thing, if that makes sense. It is not smart to push through pain when recovering. So just because you see other people doing something and you're like, wow, I can't do that yet, it hurts really bad. Maybe it hurts them really bad. And that doesn't make them mentally stronger than you, that they are pushing through that pain. Honestly, it's just going to lead them to more problems in the future. If something hurts and it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Just don't do it. So my next piece of advice would be, that goes along with it, don't try to recover as fast as possible. I made this mistake in between my first and second surgery. I had it set in my head that I'd be playing again by the end of spring break. And I just every day woke up and tried to push myself a little harder, not realizing that my surgery had not worked. And had I just told people how much it hurt and how it wasn't getting any better, and I told my friends this, but I didn't tell my doctors or my trainers because I was embarrassed and I thought I had failed. If I had just told them, like, hey, you say I should be running by now, if I run, I will literally burst into flames because it hurts so bad. Maybe I would have been able to have my second surgery a little bit sooner than 6 months later, and I could have recovered a lot faster. I'm about a year out from my last surgery now. Had I told the truth in the beginning and said, hey, the things you say I should be feeling, I'm not feeling, I could be done my 18-month recovery right now and just be that much more ahead. So don't try to recover as fast as possible. Try to recover 100%, whether that takes you the time they told you it would take you, or if it takes you double the time they told you it was going to take you to recover. It's quality over quantity in this case. It's about the quality of your recovery, not the speed of your recovery. Don't make your injury your story. Oh my God. This is my biggest piece of advice as something not to do. And I know I'm doing it right now by this is what I'm talking about. Like I'm making a whole video about it. But when you are recovering or are dealing with chronic pain, when you meet someone, or if you are talking to someone that you haven't talked to in a long time, if you find that this is all you're talking about is the pain you're feeling, your injury, how it happened, how you went undiagnosed, and this doctor missed it, and this doctor missed it, and the surgery didn't work, and just word vomiting your tales of woe, it is only going to make you focus on it more. It's going to tire people out after a while if they're, say, a close friend and that is all you ever talk about with them. You know, maybe you're forgetting to ask them about their life, you know, and it's going to kind of isolate you, because I don't want to say don't talk about it to your close friends and family, because that's, you know, what they're there for. And if they're good friends, they will, of course, sit and listen. But I really think that the words you say create the world around you. And if all of your words are negative and everything you tell about yourself is negative, you're going to be living in a negative world. Instead, talk about other stuff. Talk about your classes. Talk about, I don't know, your interests. Talk about things you are doing. Talk about new activities you've picked up since you started recovering. Talk about the things that are going well in your recovery. And there will be a time and a place to sit and complain. Like, I complain. I think everyone needs the freedom to be able to sit and complain sometimes, but that is not all the time to a stranger or the person like checking out your groceries, or to your friend when they're going through a breakup. Talk about things in a positive light, or if you can't talk about your injury or what's going on in a positive light, talk about something else entirely. And then you'll find that you're not as fixated on it, and I just think it'll be much better in the long run. That's a big mistake I made, so take it from me. I know it's hard not to talk about it, but try not to. My next piece of advice, the next three are things that you should do instead of things you shouldn't do. Do focus on areas of your life that you have neglected in the past. So by playing college sports, I was really busy. You would know, like, if you've been in a college sport or even just been really overly committed to a sport in high school or something like that, you miss out on some stuff. I had a long distance, or I'm still dating him, but now we're not long distance anymore. I never saw my boyfriend. He would always have to come visit me while I was in Florida, and he's in North Carolina, and he would have to sit alone in my dorm while I was at practice, while I was, doing stuff with my team. And while I tried my best, that was an area of my life that I was kind of neglecting because I just didn't have as much time for it. Once I started to get out of my funk, I realized I can go visit him, like, on a random weekend. I can just go see my boyfriend. We went to St. Petersburg in Florida and rented this cute little RV and just had like a 3-day weekend together when he was off work, and I didn't have a sport anymore. And instead of sitting around being like, I'd be at a game right now, I was like, I'm gonna go to this island and have a great weekend with my boyfriend. And I tried to focus on things like that, things that I could do. If you have neglected your grades, or you don't ever call your parents or your sister or something, try making time for people in your life that are important, and do activities that are going to help you in the future, like getting better grades, studying a little harder. Get a job that you would really like if you're able to. I wasn't able to work for most of the time I was recovering, just because I wasn't very mobile. But yeah, focus on things you can do, and especially the areas of your life that you've been neglecting, because you'll see them blossom. Those areas of your life that you weren't paying attention to, you'll see them blossom, and you'll be like, wow, this really happened for a reason, because you're just reaping the benefits of things you weren't able to focus on before. Number 5, find activities that you can do. And this is the same but a little different than what I just said. By finding activities you can do, I am a big proponent of being active. Okay, I have taken up some non-active activities. I'm trying to learn how to sew. I'm getting really into like thrift shopping and revamping clothes, but I definitely think you should always be active. I think it's great for your physical and mental health. And now I'm active I take my dog for really long walks, and I do Pilates, which I always thought was such a joke. I was like, no, I run half marathons and I lift weights and play college lacrosse. Okay, your Pilates workouts are so lame and so easy. No, they're not. They are not lame and they are not easy. I try to do like 3 to 4 Pilates workouts a week and they kick my butt. They are really hard and I feel like I am in great shape. Honestly, I'm not in that much worse shape than I was when I was a college athlete. I'm just in different shape. I'm much more flexible. Have a lot better mind-body connection because Pilates and yoga really make you focus on that. I might not be able to deadlift like 250 pounds, but I can do a whole bunch of pull-ups because I can focus and engage my lats and things. And yeah, so just look at what you can do and dive into that. And if something hurts, recovering from an injury is not the time to push through it. Don't do the things that really hurt. Do the things that are uncomfortable, not the things that hurt. Yoga is uncomfortable because if you've done yoga, you know what I mean when I say it's uncomfortable. You have to hold uncomfortable positions. It burns, it makes you shake, but it doesn't hurt. And learning to overcome that discomfort, I think, will also teach you how to deal with the chronic pain that you might be dealing with, how to disconnect from that discomfort. And so I think it's really good for you. So yeah, definitely recommend yoga to anyone for any reason, but definitely if you're recovering from an injury. And then just find other things that you can do to stay active as well. So my last tip is set recovery goals and celebrate them. Celebrate your recovery goals the same way you would celebrate winning a game or, winning a race when you were competing in sports before. Little things that I have been able to, or little goals that I set and have been able to reach. Wow, screwed up that sentence. Little goals that I set and have been able to reach and celebrate are things like going for a 10-minute run, a slow 10-minute jog. I set that goal in my head and I didn't put a time for when I'd be able to do it. I just said one day I'm going to be able to jog for 10 minutes again. Don't think about the fact that I used to run 13 miles. That doesn't matter. What I used to be able to do doesn't matter. All you have is your body now. With this body that you now have, set new goals. And when I was able to run 10 minutes without stopping, it was slow. I think I maybe hit a mile in that 10 minutes, maybe. And I came home and I told my boyfriend and we got ice cream and we celebrated the fact that I was able to run for 10 minutes. And it felt so good because I had reached a goal. And if you've been an athlete, then you are a goal-oriented person most likely, or you're a high-achieving person. You get a lot out of reaching a goal or winning something. And that's kind of what drives you. And that's not going to change about you. That's probably just the kind of person you are. You can still be that person. It's just that your goals are going to change. And so by making your recovery your new sport, it's going to be very fulfilling, the same way that your sport used to be fulfilling. So maybe you get like a planner or a notebook. I write everything down, like how I wrote this stuff down, and write a couple goals, make them realistic. And when you've reached them, set new goals. Like my new goal now is, I said I was able to, now I'm able to run for 10 minutes without stopping. Now I want to run a 5K. I prefer like races where other people are there, and with COVID going on, there's obviously no 5Ks or turkey trots or anything like that coming up. But I told myself that when 5Ks start again, I'm gonna run one. That's 3 miles. And there's no time on it because the way the world is, you never know. And the way that recovery is, it's up and down. So I will run a 5K again one day. It might be in the spring, it might be in 2025, and that's okay. And when I reach it, I will celebrate it. I'll take myself out to dinner, I'll buy myself a present. I don't know, I'll celebrate, because life is just too short to not celebrate little wins. So don't think that because you can't do what you used to be able to do, that you've peaked and now it's over and it's all downhill from here. Life is not like that. There's not an uphill, a peak, and the rest is downhill. Life is hills and valleys, and you have gotten through a deep valley and there is a new peak to reach. So just stay positive and you will get through it. So I hope that whoever needed to see this saw it, and for whatever reason you decided to watch, whether you're just like nosy and want to know what was going on in my life and why I have transferred schools a few times and while I was playing sports, and now, oh, I forgot to add, just in case anyone's curious, I ended up actually leaving that school where I played Division II lacrosse because for recovering from my second surgery, I decided it was just a good idea to be around my family and my friends at home and my boyfriend, somewhere where people could help me, you know, with simple things like getting groceries and things like that I wouldn't be able to do for a little while. So I'm back in Charlotte. I live with my boyfriend. I'm in nursing school, and I am the happiest I've been in probably years. So everything happens for a reason. Trust me. Like I was saying, if for whatever reason you felt like you needed to watch this, I hope you got something out of it, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.